Are you ready to start living the life of your dreams? Are you ready to start making those positive changes that you've been thinking about for a while? Well, I'm here to give you about 4 tips in a series of videos on how you can start persuading your life towards positive change. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a certified life coach with my bachelor's of science degree in psychology, and I'm the owner of Endless Possibilities Life Coaching Services. And I've decided to start a series of videos within my YouTube channel on topics that I see come up again and again with clients. And today's topic has to do with persuading change within the mind, the mental framework. So, as a coach and within a lot of research and studies that I've done, it really seems to be that the mind is one of the biggest supporters or barriers to creating the changes and the desired life that we are striving for or hope to have. So one of the things that I also often work with clients on is how do you start taking control of that mind map, that mind thinking. So first off, I want to kind of introduce a concept to kind of get an idea, a visualization of what really happens with the thought processes in our minds. So an analogy I came across that I really love, and it seems to resonate pretty deeply with clients, is think of the thought pattern, right? So a pattern of thought is the thing you consistently think over and over and over again, whether it's consciously like we're doing now, right? I'm consciously actively talking with my thought patterns, or subconsciously, the stuff that's kind of running in the background that just comes out through emotions or dreams or those just subtle feelings about ourselves. So either way, both of those things are creating thought patterns, and our mind is always working, it is always creating, and it is always running. So what happens within these thought patterns is think of it like a record, the old school record player, and it goes round and around on the groove. And when it falls into a certain groove, it plays a certain song. And if it moves into a different groove, well, it plays a different song. The same type of thing really seems to be happening within our thoughts. So if you have supportive, positive, uplifting thoughts, then as it runs around and around in that pattern, it's digging that groove deeper and deeper. And so all the linking thoughts that build off of that are funneling from that positive thought basis. Now, the same applies on the flip, right? If you have negative thoughts, if it's consistently self-defeating, if it doesn't have a sense of worth or value, if you're struggling to find your place, or, whatever might be contributing to that negative pattern, well, now you're deeply grooving in that negative thought pattern, and unfortunately, many of the thoughts that wire off, especially subconsciously, are going to have that negative imprint too. So when I talk to clients and we're really getting into the work of starting to shift that thought pattern, the analogy that I give them in that scenario is this. It's like taking that record, that needle in the record player, and you have to bump it up and you have to start a brand new one. So one of the things that I know is a frustrating stumbling block, and I experienced it myself when it comes to coaching and applying some of these techniques, is that you have to be consistent. And it's almost like, one of the techniques is the stop sign, right? Like if you recognize that you're thinking a thought that isn't beneficial, or you have chosen, you no longer want to support that thought in your life, sometimes I tell clients, visualize a stop sign. And just as soon as you see it, stop. You can also use cancel, clear, delete. Just like you would on a computer, you no longer need that file. It's gone, it's away. But you might have to do that 30 times in a minute, and you might have to do that consistently, and that's the part of the process that can be very frustrating. So that's why I use the word persuade, right? Because it's not just a one and done. You can't just say, okay, I've decided that I want to stop thinking this type of thought, and I want to put this more supportive one in place. It doesn't work that way because of the deep neurological neurotransmitter grooves that are connected within our brain. So we really have to think about the fact that that's a deeply ingrained thought pattern, maybe 30 years old, maybe 10 years old, maybe 50 years old. So we're going to have to take some work to bump it out, and we're really going to have to be intentional about building a new groove. Because within that new groove, the more we practice it, the more we play around with it, the more we interact with it, the more we think about it, the more we build it, the deeper that becomes. And that is how we can actually override our thought process system. But it takes practice, it takes commitment, and it takes a little bit of time. I will say on the positive side of things is that it is a little bit frustrating in the beginning, and you feel like, oh my gosh, come on, like when is this going to sink in? I've already decided, I'm, emotionally there, I'm lifestyle prepared myself there, like when is my mind going to catch up? And I will say what I consistently see is that it does take a little while to kind of get that groove moving, because what happens is it'll often slip back into the old pattern of thinking. This is going to happen. This is part of what our brain is programmed to do. Our brain doesn't really like change, and we really have to force an override with our free will intention to make it change. But we have to make that commitment. But once we do, and the brain really starts to recognize that this is a new pattern, it starts to get comfortable, so to say, with this new idea, and you're actually putting the practice in and building that deeper groove, it does become a lot easier. And you'll find yourself going, days or weeks without having to do the stop sign visual, or without having to check your thoughts and put it in the place that you would like it to be. But I will say, this is one of the biggest hurdles when it comes to really shifting the positive change, because it's mindset. Like I said in the beginning, our mind is working all of the time, even through the night. It's hard to shut our brain off, and we can become very complacent to the thought patterns that are running in our mind, and we can become very passive in the activity of our thought process, of our mind. So it really does require a whole new orientation to your thinking, to your brainscape, to all of those things. But I will say, once you can get a handle on that, once you build some tools and some practice in that area, it can provide just huge, lasting results. So, to conclude, I know it's kind of a lot unpacked in this little condensed video, but really the idea here is, one, awareness, right? Let's become aware of what we're thinking. And I think I talked about that in a previous video from the January release series, right? It's the consistency. What's the consistency? What's the pattern of your thoughts? That gives us a big indicator on where our groove is. Is our little record player grooving a pretty positive thing, and maybe we just need to support it a little more? Maybe we need to build an emotional connection with it? Or is it really kind of in a negative rut? And if that's the case, then we really need to get intentional and purposeful about our thoughts, at least when we can and to the best of our ability. Understanding that it's going to be practice. It's like learning to ride a bike or read or any real new skill set. I mean, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall, but you pick yourself back up and you keep on practicing, and it really does work. And this is a huge component in the Mind Over Matter masterclass that I do, is really kind of teaching the energy and the fundamentals and kind of the physics behind why this is so important. But in this series, I'm really just talking about what we can take into our controls to start persuading our life towards that positive change. So I hope that you found this video useful. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd love to see it in the section below. And stay tuned, because there's going to be 3 more videos that touch on how do we start persuading ourselves and our life towards positive change. All right, have a great day. Thank you.